Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yasodhanandana Rajanana Ranjana Yasodhanandana Rajanana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Kadamba Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jai Harinam Sankirtan Jai Anant Vaishnav Ki Jai Grantara Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Sri Radha Raghunath Ki Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the third canto, chapter 22, the marriage of Kadamba Muni and Devahuti, text number 12. Udyatasya hi kamasya prativado nashasyate api nirmukta sangasya Kamaraktasya kim punaha Pujatasya hi kamasya Rativado nasasyate Api nirmukta sangasya Kamaraktasya kim punaha. Ladies, Ujjatasya, which has come of itself. He, in fact, kamasya, of material desire. Prativada, to denial. Na, not. Sashyate, to be praised. Api, even. Nirmukta, of one who is free. Sangasya, from attachment. Kama, to sensual pleasure. raktasya, of one addicted, kim punaha, how much less? Translation. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable, even for one absolutely free from all attachment, much less one addicted to sensual pleasure. Purport. In material life, everyone is desirous of sense gratification. Therefore, a person who gets an object of sense gratification without endeavor should not refuse to accept it. Kadamba Muni was not meant for sense gratification, yet he aspired to marry and prayed to the Lord for a suitable wife. This was known to Swayambhuva Manu. He indirectly convinced Kadamba Muni, "You desire a suitable wife like my daughter, and she's now present before you. You should not reject the fulfillment of your prayer. You should accept my daughter." Om Jnanatimmarandasya Gyanandana Salakya Chakshurminitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. As Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, in material life, everyone is desirous for sense gratification. Therefore, a person who gets an object of sense gratification without endeavor should not refuse to accept it. In spiritual life, that may be slightly different, because anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. Whatever is favorable for the service of the Lord, we accept, and what is not favorable for the service of the Lord, we don't accept. Even if it is offered to us, many things may be offered that are not favorable for the service of the Lord, and then we politely decline. Thank you so much. Just like our Dhananjaya Prabhu, he described how he somehow or other attended a program done by the first devotees that had come to the UK, and he was the first devotee in the UK. Right. After hearing the devotees from America, he was impressed, and he liked them so much that the next day he came back and he wanted to bring them a gift, and he brought some eggs, which was all, from the goodness of his heart and so on. He didn't know yet that there was no meat, fish, or eggs and all these things. Had no idea. So he brought some eggs, and of course it was brought with love. It came on its own accord, but the devotees could not accept that offering, and they did not do so, because anukulyasya sankalpa and pratikulyasya varjanam. One should accept what is favorable for the Lord, and one should reject what is unfavorable. So, in this way, Harisevana Kullaiva is our consideration, whatever is favorable for the service of the Lord. It also shows that a path of renunciation also includes whatever is favorable for the Lord. We might anashakta sivisiyan yatararupa jun jataha nirbandha krishna sambandha yukta vairagya uchate. And this is the brilliance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, this philosophy of Yukta Vairagya. This philosophy where one can engage the material energy connected with Krishna, and it becomes spiritualized. And so we use so many things. We're using many machines which are products of Ugra Karma, products of this age of Kali, products that begin on a wrong foundation, based on electricity. We're seeing that in the Krishna book. Electricity was not used by the Brahmanas, but it was used by a demon who was protecting his city with electric fences, right? And that was considered the business of the demons, not the business of devotees. Brahmins rejected electricity because they could, although the knowledge was there, they could see this is not going to bring auspiciousness on the planet. What is the point? Rather, keep life very simple. And it is true. As soon as there is light at night, we stay up. We stay up into the deep, dark hours of the night. Now it's light. Then in the morning, oh, difficult to rise. Whereas when there's serious load shedding, stage 4, then everybody knows that now, bring out your candles and your emergency lights and whatever. But how long is it going to last? So, after a while of serious load shedding, you automatically go to bed earlier and automatically begin to rise earlier, and automatically life falls into place favorable for spiritual life. Therefore Prabhupada used to say, the village, he quoted this poet Cowper, right, that the village is in the mode of goodness and the city in the mode of passion. So in the mode of goodness, everything is centered around spiritual life. Of course, that is not sufficient. So we see that Kadamba Muni was speaking in this spirit of accepting the offering. And Swayambhuva Manu desired him to accept it because Swayambhuva Manu knew that Kadamba Muni desires a suitable wife. And his daughter, Devahuti, was very qualified. Right? She was not only beautiful and so on, but she had a good and pious nature. She had all the good qualities that were expected there in a woman. Therefore, she was a very suitable match for the highly qualified sage. Now, in the relationship between Kadamba Muni and Devahuti, obviously the most important thing is that they became the parents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in this way, we see that there is a divine hand in this whole arrangement, that destiny was playing a part as well, and that we're not only dealing with Kadamba Muni's personal material desires. Now Kadamba Muni did approach the Lord and did pray for a wife, which, what business does a sage have praying for a wife? Right? Why doesn't he just pray for pure devotional service and forget about the rest if he's already so sense-controlled and so detached? Whether there was a tinge of material desire in the heart of Kadamba Muni that is natural. That is natural. The desire to enjoy the material energy is very, very strong and very, very deeply rooted within the heart of all living beings. And it is even a process of great austerity, which may be followed by any yogi, or even a process of cultivating great learning from scriptures, may still not remove all traces of desire to enjoy the material energy. Balavan indriyan gramo vidvam samapi karsati. The senses are so strong that even a man of learning is struggling. Therefore, it is said there is no process which can completely take out the root of material enjoyment. One may perform austerity, one may perform prayaschitta, one may perform activities to overcome previous interactions relating to sense gratification. We have for so long, anadi bahimukha, since time immemorial, we have been in this material world. So long we cannot trace back its origin. And in the cause of that, we have interacted with the material energy, and as it is stated in the Bhagavad Gita, aparayamitastvanyam prakitim vidime param jivabhuta mahabaho yayedam taryate jagat, we have been trying to exploit the material energy for our own enjoyment. Life after life. Then Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavana Jeev Guru Krishna Prasada Paya Bhakti Lata Beach. Then in the middle of that, one may suddenly, by mercy of Guru and Krishna, here's the Bhakti Lata Beach. But what about all these lifetimes of karma? Anadi Bahyamukha, since time immemorial. And still there are karmic remnants in our consciousness from all these lives. Therefore karma is such a thing. How can one figure out what karmic reactions are stored within the heart? Aparapta phalam papam kutam phalam mukan mukan bhujam kramaneva pradiyata vishnu bhakti tatmanam. It is basically explained the aparabdha karma, or the unmanifest karma, reactions to so many materialistic activities that we have performed. These reactions are stored within the heart, and they have not yet fructified. So they have not yet manifest in all kinds of activities. And this charge, like a battery, fully charged by all these previous materialistic activities, is sitting in our heart and just waiting to emerge. Over time, little by little, certain reactions will ripen and fructify. And obviously, because of attachment, we'll commit again and again the same material activity and put reaction upon reaction, and it says from all these reactions comes a particular bija, a particular inclination. So with all these reactions piled on top of each other, a strong inclination towards sinful activity or towards material sense gratification again manifests in the consciousness. It's still there. So even if one is practicing a process of overcoming material attachment and of coming on the transcendental platform, a process of yoga, a process of jnana, of philosophical pursuit, one is still on shaky ground. But we can also see agam dunvansni kersneya niharam eva baskara, that it is the devotional service that can very easily remove the influences of previous reactions by the root. It is said it can break the teeth of the senses. The senses are compared to snakes, and they bite with the poison. Yes, the poison. Enjoy. Yes, they bite. But it breaks the teeth of the snake. What's a snake? Snake comes, opens his mouth, no teeth. Nobody cares about such a snake. Go away, snake. No teeth. Have to be fangs. So in this way, the pushings of the senses can be overcome. Rupa Swami describes the pushings of the senses as kamadinam kotida pulita durni desas tesam jata mayina karunana tapatraya. He is saying these senses, they are merciless. They have no mercy. They push you. Bring now. I'm trying. No, trying is not good enough. Bring it now. Yes, but it's difficult. Anyway, I want it now. I want this enjoyment now. And then, when we are totally exhausted, still not enough. Is that, finally we brought, is that all? Is that all you could bring? Go out again. Bring more. That's the nature of the senses. Merciless. Nagaruna natapatraya. Driving us tirelessly forward to endlessly fulfill material desires. And in this way, in the Bhagavad Gita it is said, a man is like a boat swept against the wind, forced to act against his will. He doesn't even want it. Not really. Deep down, he doesn't want it. Or does he? Maybe he does. Anyway, like a boat swept away against his will, he wants it after all. Because the power of the addiction to sense gratification is very strong. But kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana, by being engaged in devotional service, completely absorbed in serving Krishna, not only in serving but also in remembering Krishna. Smartavyam satatam Vishnu vismartavyo najata sit, to always remember him and never forget him. By Kichit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana, to be absorbed. It takes absorption. It takes absorption. Absorption is the result of dedication. First, working for Krishna. Then, developing some attachment in devotional service. When there's attachment in devotional service, then absorption can follow. When there's no attachment, then absorption, then it's all a burden. And then, I have to do so much service. Why always me? Why I have to do all the service? And they don't have to do as much service as I do. No. It's me. Yes, I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one. I get double service. That's my good fortune. Yes. But that takes some attachment to devotional service. That takes some transcendental knowledge. That takes regular hearing. And by regular hearing, Shingvata Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Ridyantasto Yavadino Ti Vidunati Saritsatam. The Vidunoti in India, they used to have the vidunoti, which was a bow. This man is walking around the street, and he has a bow, a big bow with a string, and it makes a loud sound, very loud. And he's walking around just at the beginning of winter. Said, what is this, right? Now, of course, you don't see anymore. These days are gone. Now, but what was it for? It was for, this man was dealing with the quilts. And the quilts, they are, used winter after winter, obviously. You don't buy a new one every winter. But what happens is, it's a cotton covering, and inside is just cotton threads, right? But over time, these cotton threads, they all pack together. And then there's no more air between these cotton threads inside. That fluffed cotton. And then when there's no air, the insulation of the blanket is not what it was. So here comes the man with the vidunoti. Vidunoti, voila. He comes and he opens up the quilt, plays the string, and as he plays the string, the cotton starts to, by the sound vibration, that which was packed down in the heart, it becomes fluffed up by the sound vibration. Shrimvata Swakata Krishnam Punya Sravana Kirtanam Ridhyanta Stohi Abhadrani Vidunati Saritsatam. So the Vidunati, the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam, is fluffing up all that sin that is just packed down. That stock is just packed down, sitting there like a block, and it is just, but it is fluffed up by this transcendental sound vibration. And then, inauspiciousness, the abhadrani, can be removed from the heart in this way. So this process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam is essential, because otherwise how can absorption take place? Kichit Kevalaya Bhakti Vasudeva Parayana. How can absorption, how can we become absorbed in Vasudeva? That's not just, okay, I'm living in the temple somehow or other, didn't have another place to stay, and it's not so bad, actually. It's not that bad. And there are worse things. And to be locked down in coronavirus in a temple could be worse. Could be worse. I guess it's okay. No. This is, who cares about coronavirus or that virus? It creates the image that death is very close. Well, that's true. Death is very close. It's not that since coronavirus started 1 month ago in South Africa that death is very close. Death has always been very close. Look over your shoulder. Look. No, look. If you turn your head very fast, you might see it. Try. Look. Oh, too slow. Oh. He went behind Ram Vijay. Oh my God. Death is moving around so quick. There is this very, very famous medieval painting about death. And you see just death is, no one gets away. No one gets away. That's it. When they spoke about the death rate, American journalists with Srila Prabhupada spoke about the death rate in India, and that the death rate in India was very, very high. And Prabhupada said, well, I don't see any difference. I see that the death rate is the same everywhere. 100%. Those are the little brilliant statements that Prabhupada could make out of the box, so to speak, right? Completely out of the box. Just coming like, everyone is looking at death rates, and and it's like first world, second world, third world, and different rates, and it's like, whoa, and it's like, Prabhupada just pierced right through it. It's the same everywhere, 100%. So, we are always living with death. Or as Prabhupada said to Dr. Wolf Rotkai in Germany, actually the body doesn't die. He said not only does the soul not die, the body doesn't die. The body doesn't die? He said, yes, Prabhupada said, because it's never alive. It was never alive in the first place. It's the soul that is alive and that moves the dead matter around. The body's already dead. It's the soul that makes it flap. Yeah? In this way, Prabhupada, such a transcendental vision and so oblivious. Prabhupada, what to do when the bomb is coming? You know, when the bomb is coming. Prabhupada had some experience with bombs in Calcutta, and they used to go into the bomb shelters. Siren went off in the Second World War, black out all the windows. But then one time, Prabhupada's good wife had cooked kachoris, his favorite, fresh, hot kachoris. There he was. And just then, as he's munching into the kachoris, the alarm goes off. So, you know, once you're eating, one shouldn't stop, right? You should just finish until you're full, right? So Prabhupada continued eating and didn't go into the bomb shelters. Then he saw the bombs. He saw the bombs. So he had some first-hand experience. And then people said, but Prabhupada, what if the bomb is going to drop? Then Prabhupada said, then I'll see. Here is Krishna. Here is Krishna coming to kill me in the form of the bomb. When Prabhupada was describing his experience in Calcutta, then Prabhupada says, he commented on, he saw the bombs, he saw the explosions. And Prabhupada commented and said, this is also Krishna, but this is not the lovable form of Krishna. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchate. We look at everything and see it is all Krishna, but Prabhupada made the distinction between a lovable form and a non-lovable form of Krishna, or whatever is anukul, whatever is favorable, whatever we can offer to Krishna. Just at this moment in the world, there is an interest in vodka, right? An increased interest in vodka. And why wouldn't there be? Because vodka has a high percentage of alcohol. Some papers have said vodka doesn't have enough because you need at least 62%, right? But, excuse me, there are a few vodkas, Polish vodka, right? Polish vodka that has up to 90%. Yeah, there you go. Hey, suddenly vodka has become popular, right? Nirmanda Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchate. We can use vodka to sanitize if it comes to the crunch, right? We're not against for Krishna, right? But on the outside, not on the inside. Just little. So this Yukta Vairagya is a very interesting aspect of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. It makes Krishna consciousness very universal and very flexible. Instead of it being rigidly frozen in one form. We have to all go into the forest and we have to live under a tree and wait for the fruits that fall off the tree. If you find a fruit tree, the fruits that fall of its own on the ground, and those you can eat. There are vows like that in the Vanaprastha type of lifestyle. We have to dress in tree bark. Right? I've mentioned that before. I thought about it. I said, how do you do it? I mean, I would have no idea. I mean, how do I get it off the tree in one piece? Right? I think if I'd have to dress in tree bark, it would be some sort of patch outfit, you know, little pieces, because I don't see. I have no idea how to do these things. I mean, it's impossible. If I would have to dress in tree bark, I'd better not appear in public. This would become a major problem. Right? How to live in that traditional society in a forest? No idea. But Nirbandha Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchite. We can connect things in the service of Krishna. Nonetheless, we may we may take products of the Ugra Karma, which are products of horrible works meant to destroy the world. A car. We have a car. We may be sitting comfortable in our hopefully not leather seats, right? We may be sitting very comfortable. There may be a nice dashboard. It may be beautiful. Looks good, spiffy. There may be a nice sound system playing beautiful melodies. And the suspension is very nice. You don't feel the bumps, and we're moving along the road and kind of enjoying. Meanwhile, we're sitting 1 meter away from an explosion motor. Right? It's like with highly dangerous stuff, petrol, which is ignited and it's just exploding right in front of us. And the thing is just like hot and sputtering and this and that, and there are cooling systems, and we're sitting right behind it as if it's nothing. Imagine, would we sit in front of that if there was nothing in between? If there was nothing in between, sit in front of that engine, we might go like, we take more distance, a little bit of social distancing between me and the engine. But because there's a nice dashboard of illusion in between, it feels also comfy. Then whatever comes out of the exhaust of that thing is highly toxic, pollutes the air which I'm supposed to breathe. A little pranayam. Pollution, right? Here we are. People are in Kartik, in Vrindavan, the devotees are talking, yeah, Vrindavan, so much dust, we're getting bronchitis. And it's going, it's not dust. It's not dust. It's pollution. Look at the pollution index and see how high it is. After Diwali, it's something else, right? And the farmers burn their crops, and there's all these fine particles in the air. Chronic cough. Yeah. So like this, the Ugra Karma in the world is happening. Now we may engage a 4-wheel drive, and we may put a number plate. We may buy a number plate which says, "For you, Krishna." Right? I will not say who had that car, who had that number plate. Some of us may know here in Durban. "For you, Krishna." Yes, first of all, it's easy to put a number plate "For you, Krishna," but my mind was going, yeah, sure, right? It's not so easy, this Yukta Vairagya, to just put a nice "For you, Krishna" number plate, and will that do? Because we're still enjoying at the same time. For you, Krishna. I am driving this BMW. So these difficulties are there in Yukta Vairagya, and there are other difficulties, and that is that the machine doesn't lose its Ugra nature. We may engage it in the service of Krishna, but it's still an Ugra machine. The phone is still putting out radiation, and so is your computer, and you get square eyes, right? Maybe doing it for Krishna, but still the Ugra effect doesn't just disappear. Therefore, Yukta Vairagya of using these products that are coming for from an Ugra background. Anakulyasya sankalpa. We will only use them if they're favorable for the service of the Lord. And in this emergency, it's favorable to have the internet. And in this emergency, I'm talking to our technical people about the speed of the internet and how we can boost it so that, my live streaming doesn't drop and all that. But meanwhile, as 5G was coming in, I read a newspaper article how they were testing it in the Netherlands, right? One of the early tests, and 300 birds dropped out of the sky in the area where they were testing. In New York, they don't have that problem. Birds didn't drop from the sky when 5G was introduced because there are no birds. I mean, not many. Yeah? I particularly look at birds. Right? They must be somewhere, hiding, but definitely not as many as in Durban, where the birds are screaming their heads off every evening. Right? Nothing like that in NYC. So, for now, we may use 5G to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. But we are the movement that uses computers to get rid of computers. That uses phones to drive all phones out of the world. Right? We can use anything in the service of Krishna. But ultimately, some of these things are only favorable in the short term and not in the long term. In the long term, a society based on Brahminical culture and protection of the cows, I mentioned it a few days ago, is a society that is sustainable and that creates a favorable culture for spiritual life. And in this way, it is very interesting when we read this verse. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable, even for one absolutely free from all attachment, much less one addicted to sensual pleasure. So rather than taking this verse and carving it on a stone slab and hanging it on the wall and isolating it from the context of Srimad Bhagavatam and putting it forward, as the word, as the holy word from the holy book, we are looking at the verse in the context, and in the context of Anukulyasya Sankalpa and Pratikulyasya Varjana, of whatever is favorable for the service of the Lord, and what is to be accepted and what is to be rejected for the service of the Lord. Vaishnavas have to know when to accept and when to reject. Thank you very much. Any comments, please, Maharaj? The mic is near.
Yeah, there are sahajias. They're like, I don't know what you call them, real sahajias. They're sort of practicing Bengali style sahajias. And they advocate very actively and practice the philosophy that if you're offered something, anything, you must accept. Otherwise, you're not humble and you're offending the person who's offering. So they'll accept, literally anything, meat, etc. They'll accept it all. I don't know what the name of that, but there's some grouping, and they advocate and practice that. Mm-hmm. And just another point about the machines and the Ugra and all that, which is extremely true. When Arjuna saved Mayadanava, the demon, he was like a demoniac engineer or something, you might say. He was an expert on the demoniac arts of machines. So Arjuna saved his life from the fire in the Kadamba forest. And Mayadanava was so grateful you saved my life. All his other associates were killed by the fire. So he offered Arjuna, he said, I must reciprocate. I have to. I will give you the best thing I have, knowledge of machines. But Arjuna refused because he knew this is demoniac and implications can be there. But then Krishna felt sympathetic towards Mayadanava. And so Krishna arranged that Mayadanava build an assembly hall for Maharaj Yudhisthira in Hastinapur. So he built that. Very amazing by Krishna's arrangement. But interesting, Arjuna refused.
Right.
Yeah.
Very important point. Yeah. Yeah, under normal circumstances, in other words, we don't need to turn to all these things in the name of engaging it in the service of the Lord, because we look for the long-term benefit. So these machines, they give us a little temporary benefit, but then in the long term, they have a negative result. Just like Prabhupada many times spoke about the tractor, right, as an example, and how the tractor was like, it was amazing what the tractor can do. The tractor can very quickly do the work of many men. That you with a bullock, my God, if you'd work with an animal, how long does it take, to deal with the field? Tractor, just you drive right over, done. Oh, the tractor, how nice. Yes. Prabhupada said, but now, what are we going to do with the bulls? We're going to eat them. And that's because now these bulls are a burden. They're just eating. It costs a lot of money. We don't, they're useless. It is, cows, okay, they give milk. That's of some use. But a bull, what's the use of a bull? Just standing there eating, and costs you a lot of money. These bulls eat a lot of grain. And a family, on one meal, a family could live for a week. Right? So, why don't we sell the bull? I don't know. And then, so on. So, in this way, we can see how an example that Prabhupada many times gave, isn't it, about the tractor? How the tractor actually leads to animal slaughter. And how, if we protect the bull and work with the bull, and the bull is useful, hey, my bull, don't you look at my bull. It's my bull. Yeah, it's useful. So this is you can see how the machines are actually interfering with the natural balance. But in the short term, yes.
In Russia, when they went from being under the Tsars, it's like almost 100 years ago, and communism took over, the peasants were so enamored. Well, their lives changed so much from the peasant existence, which made poor people's existence in South Africa look like high-level bourgeoisie. The peasants were just unbelievably in pathetic conditions. So then industrialization took over, and the peasants' lives changed.
Yeah.
So they started adopting the names of some machines as names for people. So I know a few tractors. Really, no joking. I know a few tractors.
Wow.
And a few other a few factories. Yeah.
It's amazing.
And even Lenin, the name means iron.
Iron.
Yeah.
Amazing. I just read about some twins who are called COVID and Corona. I don't know why. But it was in the news. Oh, poor kids. Anyhow, we can see people have it is true what Maharaj is saying, that industrialization initially brought like great solutions for people. I mean, even in the Netherlands, I had some close connections with people who were from a very simple labor background. And, you know, one day I was there and I said, oh, the factories, right? Coming from my hippie background and looking as the factories as like the destructive things, you know, and the family goes, how can you speak like that about the factories? We owe everything to the factories. It's because of the factories, you know what I mean? That we have it good before the factories. So you don't know what it was like. So in their vision, the factories were the blessing of God, you know, their prayers answered. So it gave so much immediate benefit, but then the long-term benefit, the long-term side effects, and the long-term problems, we're seeing that now in the climate change and all the, you know, all the pollution. Plastic, it was a miracle thing, and even now, plastic saves lives in hospitals. What would you do without plastic? Plastic implants, plastic everywhere. Huh? But it chokes the oceans. We're eating plastic, we're drinking plastic. Some plastic particles are in this water. It's not that the bottle doesn't give off plastic particles into the water. I'm drinking plastic. So, therefore the sages have such deep wisdom, and the Vedic culture is so complete in making a long-term, non-violent life. That's why we have to go back there eventually. Anyway, yes, Sridhama. It's a nice discussion. I mean, I thank Maharaj for his contributions very much.
Maharaj, about Yukta Vairagya, accepting the usage of something that ordinarily we may find initially it doesn't look favorable. But as time progresses, as we try to keep up pace with the world, we may have to accept something. Like, for instance, in the 70s when Prabhupada was introduced to the telex machine, the devotees were so enamored by it and they thought this is going to help our communications. But Prabhupada summarily dismissed it. You all will just use this to gossip. But now we see that if we don't keep up to email and this and that, we would be like just left behind. So, you know, I think we can't be stuck in time at the same time, but there is this thing that Prabhupada said, but how to sort of do it in a way that we keep faith, keep our faithful following to Prabhupada intact at the same time, and still be in the spirit of Yukta Vairagya.
Before I answer the question, just a personal comment. I have my moments where I think, do I really have to keep up with all of this? And there are moments where I think, I'm going to chuck it, you know, I'm going to throw my phone, I'm going to not do it. I'm not going to do email or any. I have my moments, really, and sometimes, believe it or not, I'm getting close sometimes. And if one day I do it, right, I pray that the Vaishnavas will understand. You know, I mean, they say, okay, leave him alone now. He's done his share of all this electronic communication. Oh my God. Life was so nice. You know, when I lived in Vrindavan from 78 to 84, life was so nice. There was no communication. You know, Maharaj, even the phone, it didn't work. It just sometimes rang and you go, hello, hello. And very faintly on the other side you could hear, hello, hello. Couldn't make out who it was. And that was it. And it wouldn't, nothing better than that. Mail would never arrive. It was, you might as well throw a bottle with a letter in the Yamuna. You know, it just gave up on these things. The best years of my life. That simple Vrindavan. My God, was it nice. Pulling water from the well. It was great, you know what I mean? The light would go off, I would go to bed. Right? Perfect. It was just so nice. Anyway, now back. Keeping up with the world around us. Yes, we have to keep up with the world around us because we are not Bhajan Anandis. We are Gosti Anandis. Gosti means it's about community. We are creating community of Vaishnavas. And in the community of Vaishnavas, we are increasing the ecstasy in the world. And we need to increase the community of Vaishnavas to increase the ecstasy in the world. The bliss of Krishna consciousness. So we have to use all the modern means for the sake of preaching Krishna consciousness. Yes, and it is very dangerous to freeze statements of Srila Prabhupada in time, unless they are dealing with very fundamental matters, matters that are fundamental to the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. But we clearly see the 6 Goswamis showing a very rigid level of renunciation, sleeping under a different tree every night and dressing in. Sanatana Goswami takes an old dhoti, cuts it in 4 pieces and has 2 sets of cloths. Right? Very basic. And now, for the sake of spreading Krishna consciousness, yes, we may accept so many things, and the times change. And we cannot just live exactly like it was in 1977 or pre-77 at the time of Prabhupada. Some things are different. Internet is a reality at this stage. And you can't get around it. If you want to go to the Holy Dham, you have to apply online. You know, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's the hellish form. That form, you're you're 3/4 down the form, took 2 hours, and it just like disappears, and you got to start again. That form. Oh my God! You have some eagerness to go to the Holy Dham. Oh, that form. That most painful online. And there's no one you can talk to. Previously, you could go to some embassy and say, Hare Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna. Yes, yes. Come. Go in through the back door and boom, 5-year stamp in your passport. It's over. We have to go along with the environment around us to push on this movement, to exist in this world. Yes. And Prabhupada showed that by his lifestyle, which was different than the lifestyle of the 6 Goswamis. He showed it by being a Jet-Age Parivrajak Acharya, as Satsarup Maharaj coined it. He showed it. So therefore, we make adjustments according to time, place, and circumstance. And where we can do that in the community of Vaishnavas, along with a few senior Vaishnavas, that is better. If we start to make many adjustments on our own, we may not oversee the long-term consequences of it. I mean, I was in one temple and there was a computer room. And every morning after breakfast, you see all these people, all these devotees in there, like in the computer room. There's a whole battery of computers and they're all like typing. And one day I looked at it and said, my God, just sending all that to us. It just dawned upon me, they're sitting there. And that's where all that mail comes from that I'm getting. It's watching it there, so getting all this mail. She said, And I spoke to the management and said, we should shrink down the computer room. Yeah, that would really help. And they actually did. Actually, the penny dropped. How much time are we going to spend on these machines? And it's like, how much is this phone helping me in my spiritual life, and how much is it destroying my spiritual life? How much, I have made the statements like, how much time am I touching my beats, and how much time am I touching the screen? Right? I mean, these are questions even up to the highest levels, even amongst forced to go along with it, right? Forced to go along with this society. What is it doing to us? So carefully we go along with the world around us, because we really have to ask the question, what is it doing to us? Are the Amish crazy, or are the Amish the smart ones? Right? They just didn't do it. They just didn't do it. They kept on going with horse carts, and and instead of buying things from the IKEA, they make beautiful wooden furniture from real wood, right? And everyone can see, hey, this IKEA stuff is just board, and here I got like a real table. I buy an Amish table, and they made a lot of money from it, and they're doing fine. Right? They're doing fine. Oh, what if the Hare Krishna movement would, do a bit of that? Gosh, maybe I'll volunteer. Right? Or see. How many horsepower does your car have? One horse, Of course, You get some swamis, they will have two, That will always be there, But whatever it is, right? So we must ask, anyway, the point is keeping up, but very, very thoughtfully, just like Arjuna. Right? That example, Arjuna was extremely thoughtful. Tempting offer. Tempting offer. But he didn't take it. Okay, we've taken a lot of time, so I'll end with this. But I thank you very much. I thought it was very interesting, the up and down in the discussion. Maharaj will say something.
I was told Prabhupada didn't want us to use horses
Yeah.
because they're faster than bulls or bullocks, and they'd make the bullocks unemployed.
Yeah, it's not. I think it's not because they're faster, Maharaj. I mean, there's different types of horses, and these horses that they use for the farms, I know it from the Czech farm, they're much stronger than they used to have those, and they used to work without a tractor, and used to work with horses and all that. And I said, why with horses? Why not with bullocks? I said, oh, these horses are much stronger, much stronger. I mean, these big European horses, right? Or Clydesdales, in Australia, New Zealand. Big horses, big hooves, not your not an Indian horse, like you have these Tongas with a little horse, and then, no bigger than a dog. Right? No, huge horses. Yes. So it was the strength of the horses. I think that horses might have an application in transport still. So again, if Prabhupada said no horses, then maybe the distinction is the workhorse versus the other horse. Government uses horses, used horses. India was defeated by the Muslims because they had horses, and better horses. They were like their strength was horsepower. So complicated, all these things. But well taken. Let there be bullocks. Let there be bullocks. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.